An outcome of a pregnancy, many people prioritize the mother's health, but men's health is just as important. Researchers say that poor paternal fertility and physical well-being can be linked to difficult pregnancy conditions like preeclampsia and severe morning sickness in the mother.
That's right. And a 2020 study from the American Society for Reproductive Medicine journal also found that fathers with a chronic illness were more likely to have a baby born prematurely, underweight, or that requires admission to the neonatal intensive care unit. Thankfully, to break it all down, we have Dr. Lucky Sekon joining us now. She's a double board certified REI and OBGYN at the RMA of New York Fertility Clinic. Thank you so much, Dr. Lucky, for joining us. We appreciate your expertise. Why is it so important that we understand, think about, and talk about male health when it comes to understanding fertility?
I love this topic because this is something that is shockingly surprising to so many, but men make up half of the equation. And while a lot of people know that sperm health is important to getting their partner pregnant and the fertility, a lot of them don't realize that it can influence pregnancy outcomes and the long-term health of children. And it's so important so that both partners are working on themselves and optimizing their health to have the healthiest pregnancy and child possible.
At what point, Dr. Lucky, should the male get tested or go to screenings? You know, at what point do you say, okay, let's just make sure we have optimal health on both sides here?
So half of infertility cases have a male factor. So men and women should undergo testing concurrently. And everyone should be working on optimizing their health preconception, because now we have a lot of data showing that chronic health conditions can predispose women to having pregnancy complications. We know that things like obesity in the male partner can actually predispose to having children that suffer with obesity, even if the mom who carried that child didn't have that problem. And it all comes down to the placenta, right? The placenta is a temporary organ that forms in the pregnancy, and its main role is to deliver blood flow, nutrients, and oxygen to the developing fetus. And a lot of genes come from the dad to build that placenta. And so a lot of people don't realize there is that connection. And what they do is so important to make sure that their partner can have the healthiest pregnancy possible and that they're setting their future child up for success.
I love how you break this down, because I'm also down for breaking down the patriarchy that tells us that it's women's fault when something goes wrong. I mean, frankly, there just haven't been enough studies on men. So a lot of the studies have been done on women. So we internalize this belief that we are at fault. But just kind of take us back to the basics. What are the things men should be aware of that affect fertility? We're talking, you mentioned obesity. Is it smoking? Is it age? Like, let's break it down.
Chronic medical conditions that aren't well controlled, like high blood pressure, diabetes, even depression. Mental health matters.
Oh, interesting.
And think about all of the lifestyle exposures, right? Drinking excessively, smoking is never a good thing, whether you're talking tobacco or cannabis. Also maintaining a healthy BMI, so exercise, really trying to avoid toxins wherever possible, picking up things like STIs and treating them early is really important.
You know, does this apply for couples who are undergoing IVF, in vitro fertilization?
This applies to everyone across the board, right? Both the male and female contribution is so important to not just fertility, but to the health of the pregnancy and future children.
How does that work, by the way, that the male's health could actually affect a woman having preeclampsia?
Because it's all about the placenta. Preeclampsia is a condition where you have high blood pressure in pregnancy, and it's basically a woman's response to not enough blood flow through the placenta. So their blood pressure goes up because the fetus needs more oxygen, more nutrients, more blood flow, and therefore this can lead to complications, emergencies, things like stroke in the third trimester. And a lot of that has to do with the placental function being an issue, and there are so many paternal genes that play an important role in that placental function.
Such an eye-opening conversation. Dr. Lucky Sekon, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us. Stay right here. You're watching Daily.